Good evening. The crisis in Iraq is worsening by the minute, and today President Obama, who met with his national security team, ordered the U.S. military to begin flying in humanitarian aid. U.S. airstrikes on the Islamic militant group known as ISIS could be next. ISIS continues to seize territory in Iraq and Syria with the goal of creating an Islamic State. In recent days, its fighters have been sweeping through the north of Iraq, driving minority Christians and Yazidis from their homes. Many Yazidis are now surrounded on a mountaintop without food and water. Today, the White House said the situation is nearing a catastrophe. David Martin is at the Pentagon tonight with the latest. David?
Scott, a Pentagon official said just a short time ago, the effort has begun. Transport planes loaded with pallets of food and water have taken off bound for Iraq, and American warplanes are poised to strike if the president gives the order.
The airdrops are designed to rescue thousands of civilians in imminent danger of dying from thirst and starvation. But at the same time, Islamic militants are advancing on a city where American soldiers and diplomats are based. One option calls for airstrikes to halt the advance of militants who are reported to be just 25 miles from the Kurdish city of Erbil, where some 150 American military advisors, plus an unknown number of diplomats, have been operating in a city once thought safe from attack. The fighting in northern Iraq has forced civilians to flee their homes, and an estimated 15,000 members of a religious sect known as Yazidis are stranded on a mountain surrounded by militants threatening to kill them if they do not convert to Islam. Airstrikes there would be designed to break the siege and clear the way for more transport planes to airdrop food and water. It would not be the first time the U.S. military has delivered water to the Yazidis. We went to a Yazidi village in 2003 in the heady days after the U.S. invasion of Iraq, when American troops were hailed as liberators. And this is the mountain where they are now stranded. In 2003, American troops used it as an observation post, and all the territory around it was under the command of then little-known Army General David Petraeus and his 101st Airborne Division. Today, like much of Iraq, it has fallen under the control of Islamic militants.
Obama administration officials have been debating for weeks whether to take military action in Iraq, and now these rapid advances by the militant forces have forced the administration's hand.
David Martin at the Pentagon. David, thank you. ISIS fighters belong to the largest branch of Islam, the Sunnis, but theirs is a vicious militant version, committing mass murder among Shiite Muslims and other faiths as they march toward their goal of overthrowing the Iraqi government. Holly Williams has the latest.
ISIS militants are surging across northern Iraq. Today they claim to have captured 15 more towns, a military base and the country's largest dam. Soldiers from Iraq's National Army laid down their guns 2 months ago and ran away. Now the Iraqi government is trying to force ISIS back with airstrikes. The only fighters battling ISIS on the ground in northern Iraq come from the autonomous region of Kurdistan. But now ISIS has won a string of victories over the Kurdish soldiers. In the territory they control, ISIS has carried out public executions and told religious minorities, including Christians, to convert to their brand of Sunni Islam, leave or face death. When we visited the Christian town of Bartella in June, we found it guarded by Captain Firaz Jacob and 600 local militiamen. If the militants come here to this Christian town, what will they do? I don't know, he said, but maybe they'll kill us. ISIS moved in and captured Bartella today, sending thousands more Iraqi Christians fleeing for their lives.
Holly Williams is joining us now. Holly, you've spent a lot of time in the region. How do you imagine the Iraqis would react to airstrikes?
Well, Scott, Iraqis are fighting each other, so as you can imagine, their opinions clash. I asked that question a lot when I was in Iraq in June, and I found that most Kurdish people who benefited from the US invasion of 2003 support American airstrikes. But Sunni Muslims, many of whom support ISIS or at least prefer it to the Iraqi government, tend to be opposed to any kind of American intervention.
Holly Williams reporting tonight from Istanbul. Thank you, Holly.